Alrighty then, you bunch of cabbages. We've got a little thing come in the post. It seems to be my new gasket. I'm excited about this. I hope I bought the right one. It didn't have a lot on the description of it. It just said gearbox gasket for a 92 RM125. I wanted to get it from like an actual website, like an actual parts website, but they all have, it's bloody, do you know what? All I wanted to buy was one gasket. I should have bought the water pump gasket as well, but I forgot. I only wanted to buy one gasket, and it was still £3.50 for postage. So, what do? You go to eBay, and you pay your £1.30 something, and it's faster than free postage. Faster than free postage. So what do? I mean, it's all about money these days, isn't it, I'm afraid? You know, you go to an actual proper like parts website, you know, proper shop, proper parts shop, get the real genuine part. Wonderful. I'm all about that. I don't mind paying the extra price for the part, but I don't want to pay £3.50 postage for one little gasket like that. So if I was buying like a whole array of things, fair enough, but not for that. So I went for the eBay special. I have actually got gasket paper. I could have just put the old gasket out and made my own gasket, but I thought I'd buy the real thing, and for that price, that's what I did. So let's go and see. You know, let's open the rest of the bike up. I mean engine. Open the rest of the engine up here. This is where I left off. That rat's been running around in here again and knocking over me clutch springs. I forgot to get as well a new locking washer. Never mind. It won't matter. So yeah, this is as far as I got. This is where I left it. So all I need to do, I should be able to get away with not taking this expansion chamber off. I'm not going to take that pipe off either. I'm going to drain out the coolant, take that off, take the water pump out, take the kickstart off, and then after that, it's a simple job of just undoing all the bolts going around the outside, and it should just go off it comes. And then there's our old gasket, see it flapping around in there. That's what we're going to be changing. And we'll see what kind of gasket they put in there. Whoever rebuilt this engine, whenever it was rebuilt, I don't know when it was rebuilt. At some point it was rebuilt. So we'll see what the differences are. But I have got to re-tap that. I think it's that one. I think one under here. That one or one under there somewhere. I've got to re-tap them because them bolts don't do up. They just spin around, and that's probably not helping the reason why it leaks. So, let's go.
The politics team in just a bit. We've also got the extraordinary twist in the Justice Skull case. Police say he's taken advantage of racism. But first, a story with some shocking details. And it's one you might not want young children to hear. This lasts a couple of minutes. A 16-year-old boy has been found guilty of a number of crimes against 6-year-old Alicia McCall. She was found dead along with legal stains and Alicia was just...
Okie dokie! Let's see what we get when we take this off then. See what kind of gasket the other bastard used. There we go. It was a little bit stiff. Right. Looks like we got a little bit of there seems to be a lot of rubbing going on inside this engine, doesn't there? There seems to be a lot of stuff. Unless that was a crack and they've tried to weld that up, maybe. I don't really know what's going on with that. Yeah, it seems alright in there other than that. But let's see what gasket they've used. It doesn't feel like a very good quality one. At least it's all come off in one, well, nearly one piece. It's just like your black one. Doesn't feel very good quality, so maybe that's one of the reasons why it was leaking. Hopefully, fingers crossed there, old chaps. So what I'm going to do, I've got to get the tap and die out. Well, not the die, I've got to get the tap out, not the die. I've got to get the tap out. Oh, there's a hole there. Ah! Let me clean my hands. I'll show you what I've just seen. I think this engine, I think it's seen a bit of a tough life. I think I think it's definitely seen a bit of a tough life, this engine, during its time, and it's had a few repairs. We know about a few of the other repairs on the outside. It's had a few repairs on the inside by the looks of it. Let me just clean my hands so I can pick up the camera and we'll have a look. Right then, I don't think it's a problem. I just, some of you may be interested. That's zoomed in. Oh, it is. So let's turn a light on. There we go. Oh, it's gone off. Hold on. There you go. So, looks like up in there, I noticed there was a bit of a chunk missing out of that thread. Looks like they've had a bit of a crack in there at some point, and they've thrown a bit of weld in there to weld that up, which means you ain't got a lot of thread. There's a chunk of that missing. See where that bolt goes in the top? There's a chunk of that missing, but it weren't leaking on the top, it's leaking on the bottom, so I'm not worried. Oh, wonder if that's a weld and all that. See that weld there? I wonder if that's something that's been done. I don't know. It doesn't look like that's a factory thing. To tell you the truth, I don't know what these Suzukis are like. There's a bit of a crack in that tooth. I wonder if you can see that. My arm's in the shadow now. Bit of a crack on that tooth there. On that shifter tooth. I don't know whether that weld is meant to be like that. Maybe that snapped off in the past and they've welded that back on. It's a good weld though. Done a good job if they have. That's not an original bolt. So that's been put in. I mean, to be fair, as far as I'm aware, this is a 1992 engine, I think. So it's it's quite old. It's had its God knows how many times it's been taken apart and rebuilt. It could have been rebuilt and taken apart many times. There could be many different people in here. On the other hand, it could have never been rebuilt and only had one rebuild, because I think it's had something done to it, because this is all clean. And it's got new gaskets around here, and that's all done. Look, new bolts and stuff in there. So it's had some kind of engine work done to it at some point in its life. Reasonably recent to when I bought it, about 3 years ago. Or 4 years ago. But I've never taken this engine apart, so I've never seen that. I don't think it's going to be a problem, like I just said. That bolt does seem to thread in there. It don't go particularly tight, but the problem one, I think, was that one. That's a problem one, and I think it's that one of these ones was a problem one. So that's not very good there. We'll have to give that a bit of a buff down. Oh yeah, it's a bit of a high point there. That's not going to seal properly. But it seems alright down here where it was leaking, because it was leaking on the bottom, obviously, and then going down there from around there somewhere. So we have got I just find it interesting. I like seeing the history of things. When you take an engine apart, you don't know what's going to be inside it if it's a second-hand one, especially if it's an old one. And I love to see the troubles that it might have had in the past and the repairs that people have done, good or bad. And I don't really know how on earth there would have been a crack in there. That's a bit unusual. Leave in the comments, have anyone had that crack before? I mean, I know we've got weld up there. Don't know whether you can see it from this side, but it's not going to focus on that, is it? Where that bolt goes in on that, see, you can probably just see the weld on the back of it, and there's a nut on the back of that one. So there is some repairs that they've done. Whether it's the same person, I don't know. Anyway, just leave in the comments if you ever had that happen before. There's your intake, and it's up there. bit of a crack, and someone's welded it up. So I do wonder whether it's blown up. You know, I don't know the history of this bike. It might have been a race bike. For all I know, it could have been raced and rebuilt a lot and blown up a few times. It could have been just, you know, an ordinary just ride it every now and again sort of bike. It could have been really abused. I don't know what the history of it is. Anyway, that's an interesting bit of history. I'm going to clean up. I'm going to file down those points there where it's a bit high, clean around the edges of it, clean off all around there, and oh, I've got to tap out that. I think it's that one. Or is it that one? I don't know. I'll find out what one I've got to tap out. I'll tap it out. Hopefully the bolt will go in there nicely after I've tapped it out. What I might have to do is drill it out one little bit bigger, drill out the hole on there to correspond, and get myself a bigger bolt, and then tap that out and put a bigger bolt in there if I can't straighten up the threads. Sometimes you can straighten the threads up with just tapping it again, and you ain't got to put a bigger bolt in. Only sometimes, but we'll see how it goes. Depends how badly damaged them threads are. So I'll do that. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Alright, so for those of you that don't know or whatever, this I can't remember. I think this was a relatively I think it was quite cheap. I'm not really sure. I've used it a few times now. It's my tap and die set. I had a really good one before, but I lost it. I don't know what happened to it. So this was a relatively new one. The one I had was an old one. And it was really old actually. So I can't remember. I lost it and it just went somewhere. So I've got myself a new one. So this is a tap and die set. There's a dies here, and there's a taps. So what you do is you use these ones to tap out, like where you put bolts in and screws and things. And the dies you can use to do like rods, you know, like thread on the outside. So these do inside threads, these do outside threads. And obviously you got different measurements and things on them. See what to do. And in this particular little set you get is like a little set of feeler gauges, metric. I don't know why they're metric these days. And there you go. And a screwdriver. So yeah, some of you, I tapped something else out. I tapped something out in a video once, and someone said, "How do you do that? What do you use to do that?" So I thought, there we go. I've told you now what you use, and I'll probably show you how to do it. Right then, you lot. There's going to be a little bit of controversy here. This is the way that I was taught how to do a bit of tapping. This is going to be full of innuendos, this video, I'll tell you that now. Anyway, this is the way that I was taught to do it in engineering college, and it's the way that I kind of do find best. There will be some controversy, because there'll be people that are saying, "Oh, I've been doing, you know, this kind of thing for 20, 30, 40 years, and I always do this, or I was taught this, or I was taught that, and it works fine." You know, there's probably different ways, but the way I was taught to do it was make sure you got plenty of oil. Get your oil can, you know, 1540, WD-40, whatever you want to use. I've got 1540 engine oil in here. Oil up your tap, and you go, you know, in sort of 2 turns or so, thereabouts, and then you come out a little bit like that, and then you go in a little bit further, and then you come out a little bit like that. And what you're doing is you're helping all that swarf. See all that swarf around there, and that little bit coming out the back there, because it just so happens that the back of this hole is opened up. The tap now is coming out the other end. So all the swarf's being pushed out the back there. Some of it's coming around here, and those little gullies there, the swarf will come through them. But if you've got a hole that you're trying to tap where there's not open at the bottom or the other end, all that swarf that's coming out of there has got to go somewhere. So by coming out a couple of turns, you'll see there, you're helping the swarf sort of make its way up the tap, because otherwise it's just going to get stuck at the bottom, and you can snap your tap and your threads won't be the best. I mean, when I was in college, you know, I was a little bit, I want to find out why they're telling you to do it a certain way. Yeah, everyone does, I suppose. I did. So you think, well, why can't I just keep screwing it in like that. Why can't I just keep going and going and going and going and going? Why don't that work? Everyone else does that. Well, you know, I tried that a couple of times. I snapped a tap once, slightly smaller tap though, but I did snap it because it gets jammed up, you know. So you want to come out, put a little bit of oil on there, go back again, you know. And the threads, I find, didn't seem to be quite as good if you use that method of going in and out. It kind of cleans the threads up nicely that you're cutting. So, you know, do it however you want to do it. I don't mind, do whatever you want to do, but that's the way that I do it, and I find that works perfectly well. So, what I've done here, what I'm going to do, all these threads here are M6, but it just so happens, I thought there was a stripped thread along here somewhere, but I can't find it. They all seem to be good. So, this one that I'm tapping out now, I did tap it at M6, but the bolt, all the bolts are the same size, they're just different heads. You put it in, you could push it through and all that, and the threads were loose. And you know, I tried to do it up, and I pulled on the bolt, and it just ripped it out. And I just pulled on it, you know, so it's not tight. All these ones are nice and tight. You screw the bolt in there, it's nice and tight. You know, there's no movement in there whatsoever. They're all the same. That's nice. That's good thread. But that one, it was properly stripped. So what I've done is I'm tapping it now at M7. I haven't drilled it out, I haven't done anything to it, I'm just tapping it at M7. So I've cut myself some really nice deep threads in there, and that's cut them nicely. And because it's a new tap as well, I mean new set there, that's nice and sharp. So I've cut myself M7 threads, so I'm not going to be able to put this cover back all back together this evening. It's getting on a bit now, it's almost 6:45. So my plan was to do this tonight, put it back together, stick oil in it, and leave it for a couple of days. And next time I'll be able to come and have a look will be the weekend. So I was going to leave it for a couple of days, and then I'll better see if it leaked. But I'm pretty pleased that I haven't got to, because what I've got to do now is I've got to go out and get at least one M7 bolt. But I think what I'm tempted to do is tap all of these out at M7. And that way I can just put a new bolt in all of them, and they'll all be the same bolts. So it'll look better, plus they'll all be the same size. So I won't have, you know, some of these have got smaller heads, some of them have got fatter heads. I've got one Allen bolt there. So I might just get loads of bolts, M7, and tap them all out at M7. Maybe the way to go. But I'm going to give this a proper clean up, clean all this up. Something's happened here, someone's damaged that. Clean that up properly to make sure it's got a nice good seal, so I haven't got to take it apart again. You know, that's all loose, that's for the water pump. I don't know what the history is of this bike. You know, it could have been a race bike, it could have been really badly abused, it could have been rebuilt many times, it could have never been rebuilt apart from once. I don't know the history of it. Someone's definitely been in here. It could have blown up catastrophically and they've repaired it. I don't know what the history of it is. But because I know that the bottom end is a bit rumbly, there's a little bit of, you know, not a lot. It's a little bit rumbly, but I don't ride this bike often enough for me to warrant spending the money to rebuild it. So I'm just going to ride it when I get the chance. If it blows up, then I'll rebuild it. So for now, I'm just going to make it so it doesn't leak all the gearbox oil out. And yeah, we'll go from there. So I'm not going to get this together tonight, so there'll be a part 3 on this video. So sorry about that if you don't wanted to see it together. But there will be a part 3. Hopefully some of you have learned something about tapping. You know, there will be controversy. People have been doing that for years, disagree with my method, but it works. So there we go. I'm going to give it a bit of a clean up, and we'll take over on part 3, I suppose. It does make me wonder what on earth has happened there. There doesn't seem to be any damage to that cog or anything in there, so I don't know what on earth's happened to that. Something's been bashing it though, isn't it? I reckon at some point, you know, there's that bolt put in there. That bolt's put in there, see? I reckon at some point this engine had a catastrophic failure and it just blew up, something happened, and there were some bits flying around in here. That's probably why that crack happened up in there and chipped all that away, because something flew off in here. Probably that. Put a new cog on it maybe. Yeah, it shouldn't really be like that. So I reckon it's had a catastrophic failure and it's mashed that up in there. I reckon that's what's happened. It doesn't matter to me. I mean, a bit of wear in there and all that. I mean, it doesn't matter to me because, you know, it's an old bike and I don't really ride it that often. But it's just, I reckon, I like to try and piece together what's happened, what's caused the markings that are inside. And I reckon at some point that's probably flown off inside, bounced around in here, chipped all that up, smashed that. That's why that's welded and there's a bit of the thread missing, and mashed that up in there. I reckon that's what's happened. Leave in the comments what you think's happened. And well, we'll never find out for real, will we? But yeah, it's interesting to see what you lot think.